Welcome to another edition of Vigorously with me, Val Hands. Gina Bilardi, full-time vocalist, is in the building. Gina, I'm thrilled to have you here. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Val. I appreciate it. I'm over here in New York, and you are in, I believe, the Midwest.
Correct, Minnesota. Yes,
Oh,
I know.
that's
So it's just starting to get a little bit colder here. We had 45 degrees with like 20 mile per hour wind gusts today. And I was like, sir, the wind, is this necessary?
yeah,
Because it makes it
please.
feel colder than it really is. I'm not a native Minnesotan, so I'm not used to this, but the longer I stay here, the more I get used to it. When was the
What?
last time you've been outdoors? Because I know you're a camper.
Yeah, I am an outdoorsy kind of gal, and I'm outdoors often because Mama needs nature on the daily, so I take my
Period.
walks, my old lady walks when I can. Need to hug a tree every once in a while too. If I don't get my tree hugs in, I get mean. So
Mm.
I'm out in the parks a lot. But really I'm always outside because I ride a motorcycle and I am always on my motorcycle and I'm really passionate about my motorcycle. So if I don't get that ride in, again, I can get mean. I get crabby.
Kind of like me and when I don't have food. Hangry. The
That
hanger is
too.
real. The
Yeah,
hanger is
no,
so
I
real.
I need my alone time cutting through the wind on two wheels. Not to sound cheesy, but also it's to be cheesy because if I don't get that, I get crabby, man.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
feel
I'm
you on
outside
that.
quite a bit doing that.
Well, so where do you just ride locally? Do you take longer trips across the state? How do you like to ride?
I wish I had more time to do bigger trips. It's kind of like on my bucket list and on my goals is to get
Mm.
myself riding more out west, riding across the country, riding to cool motorcycle meetups. There's all kinds of women-led motorcycle meetups even on the East Coast that I never seem
Really?
to get to. Yeah, and I'm always bummed I can't get to them, but I'm a full-time singer and entertainer, and usually they're on weekends.
Oh,
But I
got it.
do ride around locally all over Long Island, and if I'm lucky, I can get like upstate or into Connecticut where there's some really pretty riding over there. So I do what I can.
Is fall the prettiest time of year to ride? Because I would imagine so.
Yeah, I mean, there's
The
nothing like
colors.
when you're in a car and you're passing cool things like foliage, it's like, wow, that's pretty. But then when you're like embodying the essence of
Mm.
fall by cutting through the air on a bike and the leaves are falling around you, you can't make up for that. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
I love that. Who got you interested in writing, or was that maybe just something you picked up because you wanted to?
That's a really good question. I think when I was in high school, I was just like, I don't know. I was this girl that kind of always struggled a little bit with her identity in terms of like, I'm a girl. I should do girly things, right?
Mm.
And I didn't always like girly things. And I really struggled with like, I just feel like this black sheep outcasty kind of girl. And I always wanted to kind of do things a little different. And I don't know if I necessarily had role models, but like, hey, love Joan Jett. She rode a motorcycle.
Period.
Um, I loved the look of just various women who were never afraid to kind of show more masculine energy.
Mm.
And so I just found that very attractive and powerful ever since I was little. And I always knew I'd want to ride a motorcycle. And then uh, I have a husband, and I've had a husband for 7 years, but we've been together since we're 17, since high school.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, yeah, right. Like that's kind of you don't see that too much anymore, right? So we've been
No. Yeah.
we've been together a really long time. And he has a mother who's also Gina, weird,
Uh,
who also rides a motorcycle, weird, who also did theater and music, very weird. Um,
oh, I'm sure those conversations are endless.
yeah, the Freudian slips. Anyway, so he just was very encouraging and kind about it, and he's a man who is like, I've never, what one thing I absolutely freaking love about my husband is when it comes to like gender roles or he's just never ever made me feel in any way like I couldn't do anything because I'm a woman. In fact, I think he's used to powerful women around him, so if anything, he's
Yeah.
always emboldened me to do more. So no, he just gave me kind of like the blessing and like, hey, you should go do this. And I had an uncle who worked for Harley who handed me some cash one day. And he's like, I got you a private lesson. It was totally bougie, by the way, really
Wow.
bougie. And that was it. And I haven't looked back since. And I pretty much just fell in love with it. And now it feels like a part of my identity. So it's just a part of me.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
So, and we love a secure king too. That I mean, you don't get that without being secure with yourself. Could you tell that about him right away when you met
Uh,
him? That he was secure
so
with himself?
when we were, well, you know what? It's actually kind of funny. Like when we were younger, he um he was really, really shy. And we have this whole joke where like
Oh,
his mom used to try to introduce him to me. I used to do theater with his mom and his sister, which is really cool.
oh, that's the
And
connection. Okay.
yeah, yeah, we used to do theater together, and she used to try to introduce him to me, and he would squeak out a hi before running away. He would just run away from me. He was super shy, and then somewhere in our late teenage years, we became really close friends. And then I totally fell in love with him. Luckily, it was mutual,
Oh.
and after we went to prom with different dates. We soon realized that we were just gonna be in each other's lives
Yeah.
after that. But he was very, very shy, but he's always been very, very confident. And I say my favorite thing about my husband is how fair he is. He's just so fair, got a lot of
Oh.
integrity, and he's very fair. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I hear
he's really great.
I love that. I hear a lot of honesty in there too. I mean, I went through something a little bit similar with my own husband. I've been with mine almost similar story. We got together pretty much in high school. And I actually went to LA for 2 months for an internship. And we had that like that deep, dark convo of, okay, we're gonna be apart for 2.5 months. What does this mean for us? Do we take a break? Do we call it quits? And literally, he just looked at me like I had 8,000 heads and said, why? We're going to be together when you get back. And I was like, okay. All right. Decision made. You didn't have to tell me twice. But
That's
that's
amazing.
hard. But I appreciate that honesty. You don't get that in relationships that often. It's
Yeah, I gotta
incredible.
say, I always kind of so the way I kind of sum it up was is my husband and I are very, very different. He just is a very super practical, not super emotional, um, uh, very headstrong, but with a lot of kindness and softness at the same way. It's actually
Mm,
a little hard to
perfect
describe.
combo.
I'm emotional and creative and I'm kind of like all over the place, but I have like a lot of grounding features to me and I like having a home and I like having certain security. So we balance each other out. Um, but he's just one of those personalities where he's so decisive at all the times and he always knows exactly what he wants and he just like there's no like overthinking. There's no over anxiousness with him. He's just like, no, this is what it is, and he just goes
Yeah.
and sticks with it. And there's like no unwavering with him. And I don't know. I mean, I can't judge the whole world out there, but I don't see too
No.
many personalities like that. And he's very special in
Yeah.
his own way. It's
There's
cool.
some sort of juju out there because that's mine too. But I'm the creative, chaotic baddies. I mean,
Yes.
we're
Come
the
on.
ones that are all over the place,
Hell
and
yeah.
we need them to say, "Sis, calm it down. You've been doing, like you've been working too hard, or you've been, trying this and trying that, and you're taking this too personally, and blah 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 blah." Because we get in our feelings, especially when
Yeah.
we're attached to such a creative endeavor, whether it's music or painting or art or even graphic design or things photography, things you're putting together on social media. It all counts, and
Yeah.
it's
Hell
nice to
yeah.
have that other person put you in check and say, I don't know about that. Like, just let's take a few steps back and come back to earth, come back to reality.
Yeah.
What sparked your interest in music though to begin with?
So it was really mostly theater and musical theater. I've been doing that
Mm.
since I'm really young. Um, and I tried to be like a child actor for like my high school years. Used to cut class and go audition for Broadway shows.
Oh,
Don't tell
nice.
anyone that.
I
No,
do
actually,
that too.
my
Yeah,
mom
I
used to
would
let me
do it
do
too.
that. My mom used to do it. She was like my parents were very, very supportive of me as a performer. So my mom used to be like, yeah, well, don't go to school today. On the LIRR and go into the city and go on this audition. It's a great audition for you. So I thanks, Mom. I appreciate that. So I was doing musical theater and acting, and I, did that for like most of my life. It was like my fucking identity. So much so that by the time I got to college, I hated it.
Oh,
I
interesting.
hated it.
Okay.
I hated it. And I after I ended up finishing college for theater education and became an actual certified theater teacher to teach like for high school.
Okay.
Because I always kind of wanted my own theater program. That was like another quiet dream I had. And I was somewhere between trying to be a teacher and also still dabbling in the performing world. I was working in casting and talent management as well at one point. I was like, I had my hands absolutely everywhere. And at one point, I just was like, you know what? I'm going to go teach. I'm going to totally get out of entertainment. And I did.
Yeah.
And it was cool, but I was desperate to like, I was missing something. And at that point, I had only sang like musical theater,
Hmm.
which is its own very unique style. And you don't hear too many musical theater people singing Led Zeppelin and
No.
pop punk. So I basically just kind of made some switch while I was teaching, and I was like, you know what? I would really like to sing more of that music because that music actually speaks to me more. And singing
Okay.
in front of a band and, ripping guitars and crazy rock music of all different, subgenres. So I just started going to open mics and I started pushing myself to sing outside of the musical theater jazz world. And at first I sucked and it was tough and I just found
Everybody
myself in a
does at
lot of
first.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Everybody
weird. I
does.
felt like I was wearing a costume. I like didn't know who I was. Like, what the
Oh
fuck am I
man.
doing? Yeah. I was like, I want to sing like, Ella Fitzgerald and an aria. Like, what is this? Who am I? Who am I? I
Wow.
was having an identity crisis. Um, and then I don't know, I was just teaching and I was like teaching for like years, like 6 years maybe. And
Mhm.
as I was doing that, I was getting more and more unhappy. And the closer and the more I sang with bands and started singing rock music and singing certain funk and blues and soul, I don't know, something just clicked in me where I started feeling more like myself and started
Ah,
like finding myself as a woman. Now that's really deep, but it's true. I started
yeah.
finding who I was, like these little parts of my personality that I was like, ooh, I love showing that.
Hmm.
I love it. I love like wearing my confidence like this when I sing.
Yeah.
And yeah, and before you know it, that's just all I started doing was singing with bands. And aside from doing like some non-equity like theater tours and whatever else of theater in the acting world, I've basically just been singing with bands, singing backup for artists or finding work wherever I can that involves me singing with a band.
Yeah, I want to unpack that a little bit more too, because I know it's important to you to be a singer that is skilled within multiple genres of music.
Yeah.
That is a big part of what you do, and that's something that's very important to you. When did that click for you, the importance?
Oh yeah, and that I love that you asked that question because that is really important for me. So when you're in musical theater and when you're doing acting, you're basically spending all of your time trying to fit an archetype. You're spending all
Mm,
of your time trying to fit someone else's vision of who you should be, a casting director, a director, whatever. You're going to an audition and they're looking at you for a certain role and you're trying in your brain, you're like changing who you are without even knowing it to fit that role and archetype. And like I said, I got really sick of that. I burnt out. I basically
yeah,
spent so much of my life trying to be Tracy Turnblad in Hairspray to the point that like I didn't even know who I was anymore. It's like
yeah.
basically I walked into a room and they're like, "Oh, a cute chubby singer. God, we should audition her for Tracy." And it's like I don't
Oh,
even I
jeez.
don't even fucking sound like that. But sure,
Yeah,
I spent a lot of my years trying to get that role and guess what? I never did. And that's how it should be. That's how makes sense to me now. But I digress.
yeah.
Uh I think, as I said, the more I just started singing outside of the spectrum of music I grew up being conditioned to sing, um, I just found more ways to express myself in front of a crowd that felt authentic to me. And I wasn't
Mm,
trying to be another role. I wasn't trying to be anyone else. And guess what? When you're an actor from a young age, that's a revelation going in front of a crowd and being yourself.
Yeah.
It's almost like you don't have that armor of being the character anymore. You don't have that armor of being the archetype. You have to just be you, and you have to be you vulnerably. And when you sing, whether it's someone else's music or your own, it there's an authenticity to it that you can't mistake when you're singing guttural rock music or sexy soulful funk and R&B.
Yeah.
And yeah, the more I just explored all those genres individually, the more I realized, hey, this is actually very complimentary of my voice. I actually sound better doing all this stuff. And B, it just felt so much more. I felt like I could breathe. Felt like I could breathe. Felt like me. And
That's
I
beautiful.
loved it. And I
Yeah.
became very addicted to it. I think now I'm very addicted to it right now to the point where it's hard to put myself back into that mindset I used to have in theater and like put on that archetype and put on those characters. It's like, oh my God, I don't even want to put myself through that anymore. I just don't even
Yeah.
want to do it to me, you
Yeah.
know?
I went through a similar situation in radio too,
Oh,
where
okay.
similar thing. They wanted you to fit what they thought a country DJ would be, a pop or top 40 DJ would be, a rock DJ, blah 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 blah. And I, but they wanted you to do it to be flexible enough so that they could market you too. So you couldn't lean too heavy one way or another, but they still wanted you to fit a particular mold. It was a very interesting dynamic that I never quite understood. And like you, I eventually left because I got burnt out on that. I was like,
Yeah.
sir, I don't even know what pair of shoes I'm putting on today now. Like, because I don't know what in the world you want me to do or be. And here's Val sitting there going, "Hi, I still exist."
Yeah.
And she's hurting inside because no one can hear her, no one can see her. She's just kept in this little cage.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I literally had like a major bout of suicidal ideation, and I was like,
Mm.
oh, okay, we need to stop this. Like we need to
Yeah.
leave the industry because it's just not worth it. I would love to hear more about the work that goes into acquiring such a varied set of skills too. That can't be easy, being able to sing different things.
Yeah, I mean, God bless voice lessons, right? Like I made
Mm,
sure that I take voice lessons. I take voice lessons with a lot of different teachers over the past 6 years that focus more on the pop rock style, not the musical theater as much like I used to.
mhm.
So that helped me make that transition. Um, I think it's also what I listen to too. I think it's a little bit like our environment influences us.
Yeah.
Like I have invested myself into being in the environments where the music I want to sing is being performed or played.
Mm,
I'm not in the musical theater. I don't go to see as many musical theater shows as I used to. Not because I don't want to shit on musical theater. I do love it. But I definitely like feel like that's a part of my past in a lot of ways, and that was like a past version of me.
mhm,
Um, I also I used to be a theater teacher. I taught theater. I had a certification. I had a college degree for this. I, someone made fun of me one time. They said, "You're a theater teacher. There's money in that. You could do that." And it was funny because I was actually teaching by 22. I had
yeah,
a
it's
theater
like, why wouldn't
program.
there be?
Yeah, I was like, that's crazy. But people have small minds. And I was
Okay.
doing that, and, and I was living that like dream, but kind of um along the lines of feeling like the theater world was just putting me in these box archetypes. I felt
Mm,
like I started teaching that to the kids in a
mhm.
way, and
Oh,
I started to dislike
okay.
myself for it, and I
Yeah.
started to dislike the art. And then I just found a lot of things within that industry that just no longer I just didn't resonate with it anymore. I didn't resonate with a lot of the personalities. I didn't resonate just with it's funny. A lot of theater people, a lot of people in that industry talk about self-expression, but if you walk in an audition room in New York City in Ripley Greer, you'll never find a more closed off bunch of people. And I just found that really interesting. I was like,
Ah,
we're supposed to be comfortable with vulnerability and expressive, and y'all are cold. Y'all are fucking cold.
you're
Uh so so yeah, I found that by by going to these open mics, right? And by meeting all types of musicians that a lot of blues, because I love blues and I feel like blues has this
Mm.
blues and soul has this vulnerable element to it. When you perform it, it's really cuts down to the core. So I like
Hmm.
being around blues musicians because they just dig in a way that maybe like I don't always feel from like pop. But I just put myself in those environments and just worked hard to not perfect, but worked hard on my own technique, my vocal technique, to try to sing all these styles and these things. And I mean, I'm still trying, man. Like I work, it's something I work on every single day, warm
Yeah.
ups and whatnot every single day.
That's okay. That's the takeaway for any young musicians listening. Just keep at it. Number one. Number two, surround yourself with different environments, get exposed to different things. And three, don't be afraid to take lessons. Really.
Never stop
And
learning.
yeah.
There's no end to it. A voice is a muscle. So as your body changes, your muscle is going to change. You know, there's no reason, just like, an athlete, they work on their muscles constantly stretching. If they go too
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
without stretching, it atrophies. Like it's something that has to constantly be worked on.
Mm.
So yeah, the process of working on myself and working on my technique never stops.
Makes total sense. As
Yeah.
a singer, what are some of the benefits that you've seen come your way because you have a variety of skills, because you can sing a variety of genres?
Well, I think something that I'm doing a lot the past few years, especially since COVID touched down, I've
Mm.
been working heavily as an event singer for like high class corporate events and weddings. Years ago, I was not interested in that kind of work. I felt like it was devoid of something creative, and and now,
It's corporate America. I don't blame
yeah, it's
you.
corporate. Fuck that. But
Yeah.
like now I'm 33 and I like money, and I like
And your cats like money, and the
I
husband
like
likes money. And
I
once in a
like
while, I prefer
money.
to feed myself and house myself.
And also like really being it when I'm playing a wedding. So answer your question, yeah. So being a corporate singer in like say a top 40s cover band or a big event band, you can go one night you could be singing in like 10 different genres depending on the needs of that
Okay.
event. So it's very,
Right,
very
because it's whatever is popular. Okay.
yeah, it's whatever's
Makes sense.
popular or like, I could be doing a first dance song. I could be singing Unforgettable, right? An old jazz standard.
Mm.
But
Mhm.
then but then 10 minutes from there I'm singing Best of My Love by The Emotions. And then 5 minutes after that I'm doing Edge of Glory by Lady Gaga and Don't Stop Believing by Journey. And then later on I'm doing the Jackson 5. So it's like you have to really manage your technique and be able to get in and out of those genres to just cater to like say a wedding set list or a high event corporate set list, and it usually is just full of many different genres.
You've literally made yourself more marketable. That's what I just
Yeah,
heard.
yeah, it is for that, and I'm blessed that like yeah, those jobs they pay nicely. And hey, you don't knock it until you try it, man, because when you get to play like say some of these really big weddings, yeah, they could be stressful, and every cool job has its own like, annoying thing, of course. But
Hmm.
I wake up, say on a Saturday, and I go play music on somebody's best day of their life where everybody's smiling and happy. And it's like sometimes I'm just like, is this real life? Like, this is my
Yeah.
job. Like it could be a lot worse.
Yeah, no, that's a
It could be
beautiful way to
so
look
much
at it.
worse, you know?
Well, so
I'm
when I
like,
was doing a deep dive into your previous work experience, speaking of, I wonder if you had that moment singing back up for Josh Groban. That would have been hard. I would have been like staring at him the entire time if it were me. How did you what? Tell me about that.
yeah, so actually singing back up for Josh Groban, I have a really simple thing to say about that. And it just felt right and good.
Yeah.
And I kind of walked out of there like that was just another gig, but not in a bad way. I meant that more in like that's exactly what I should be doing. I deserve that
Mm.
work because I've been in this long enough.
Hmm.
That's where my skill level is, the time I've put into this, my professionalism. I kind of just walked out of that gig was like, gee, that's where we should be, baby. Like that's what we should be doing at this point. And you did it well, and you put your heart and soul into it, and you're prepared. And I, I was just happy to be there. My family and friends were there, and I was just like, yeah, more of this,
Yeah. More, please. How does one
more of
even
this.
get a job like that? It's not just
Uh,
advertised in the paper, or is it? Or
no, it's
paper
not.
or
And
online.
yeah, you dated yourself with that one,
I
girl.
did. I'm only a year older than you too. I'm like, but I remember seeing that, like, instruments or giveaways or guitars needed for a band. Like, you would see that in the paper, and
Yeah.
now you see it online. Is that how it happens?
Well, so it could for certain jobs. I've had certain jobs where it's been like a breakdown on Backstage or Playbill.com, which a lot of actors and musicians use. They call them, casting breakdowns. I've found a lot of cool jobs that way, Actors Access. But no, for Josh Groban, one of the other singers that was already picked to sing backup, thought of
Oh,
me when they needed another alto. And,
got it. Okay.
I will tell you,
That's any
he
business
used
that's helpful. The buddy
that's
system
any,
is what I
it's
call
really
it.
any business. There's a lot of things in my music life has been who you know and who you've made a good impression on, who you've shown your professionalism to, and people think of you when you show up and do the right thing and you stay on your craft, people think of you. So I'm
Yeah.
lucky for that.
Ah, I can't even imagine. So, what's next for you? What can we look forward to coming from you, just in general,
Oh,
or
okay.
anything you want to bring up?
Oh God, I don't know about you, but I know the world. I feel like people around us are on like this big transition right now. Like all this exciting stuff
Yes.
is happening, and then all this really scary stuff is happening.
Hmm.
And the way I kind of contextualize it is just big change. I don't fear big change, even if I don't know what the hell I'm doing going forward. I look at it as just like, all right, whatever the universe, God, whoever has in store for me, I'm ready for it. And I think for me, I plan on doing this gig freelance life as long as I can. And the next big project, aside from my corporate gigs and local band gigs, which if you go to my website, you could check out. Like, so I have a bunch of local bands and local projects I work on. I do a lot of cover projects. My Women of Rock tribute is the biggest thing I'll be working on next.
Fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that because it's more than just a tribute show to me. It's I would hope for it to feel like more of a community eventually, where it's more than just performing this show or we're, singing the songs of famous women in rock. I wanted to be able to create a company around the show and have other programs associated with it or do other activities through the show to basically empower women and to give people a little bit of a sounds cheesy, but give people a little bit of a home with music and a home with this show. I want there to be a sense of camaraderie through this tribute project. I don't want it to be just we get on stage, we sing, we leave, songs that you've heard 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I want it to feel more meaningful, more purposeful. So I'm in the process of trying to put that together and you know, get out there and hopefully be touring with it because my biggest dream is performing and traveling together. That's just the ultimate for me. That's what I love to do.
Oh.
And to do it with my own tribute show, Women of Rock, and my own brand, that would be amazing. And if I can get a motorcycle on stage while doing this show, it would make my life. I've been talking about it. I'm like, how can I incorporate my motorcycle life into this show? Because
I
I
don't
I
ask
need
Rob
to.
Halford. Ask him. He's done it.
I need to. Can I ride my motorcycle across the stage every night?
I would pay to see that. If nothing else, I would pay to see that. That would be
You.
fan freaking tastic. And what you're talking about, we need it. I mean, specifically women, we need it right now. We're feeling pretty
Yeah,
low right now. Just I think as a as an entity, we're feeling kind of low
I
right now.
agree.
So
I've
anything to boost the morale, anything to empower us, hugely important.
Yeah, I want to do that through music. That's my thing. I don't write my own music. That's one thing about me. I'm not shy about that. I wish I had that skill. I don't. It's not even about a skill. I don't particularly have a drive to do it, but
Oh,
I'm
okay.
gifted at like I think I am gifted at like bringing people together and shining my light, hoping that it brings the light out of other people and makes people feel seen. Um, because that's what I want to do with this show. I want to make people feel seen. I want to make people feel validated and heard and like they're a part of something. And I that's a tall order to do with a tribute music show, but I think I could do it. And that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to accomplish right now.
I can't wait to see it when it comes to fruition. That's going to be incredible. Gina, thank you so much for
Yeah.
hanging out with me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You rock. I appreciate you.